Are you ready to unlock the secret of living a life of strength, balance, and longevity? I'm Anita Terlizzi, and I have helped hundreds of men and women transform their lives by placing their health and wellness as a priority. I am a certified personal trainer, founder of Thrive 55, and your host of the Made to Thrive podcast, where health experts from around the globe join us as we dive deep into topics that help us age gracefully and stronger than ever. This is where we take back our lives, friends. This is where we learn to embrace and celebrate this new normal we call middle age. I call this our second act. We have so much living to do, so let's not waste any more time. We weren't made to just survive these years of our lives. We were made to thrive. Hello, friends. Welcome to Made to Thrive. I am your host, Anita Terlizzi, and I am so happy you're here. I have an amazing guest on our show today. She is a true warrior and one of the strongest people I know. Her name is Janette Baranski. She is a wife, mother, grandmother, sister, and personal friend of mine. Among other important titles, she has battled through the reality that she is also an amputee. Over the past 15 years, Janette has had 22 surgeries. Ultimately, her right leg was taken just below the knee and is managing her life in a prosthetic. So, in today's episode, I want to take this time to get to know a little bit about Janette on a personal level and listen to some of the obstacles she's facing, but most importantly, how she finds joy and purpose during so much adversity and chronic pain. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring Janette on right now. Hello, my friend.
Hello,
Thank you
it's
for
wonderful.
coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'm so happy you're here. Maybe I should just tell our audience a little bit about how you and I met.
Okay.
Janette and I have been friends for about 15 years. We met
Wow.
when our daughters were in second grade. We were both volunteering for the class. And it was the funniest moment because I sat at this table and Jeanette, I don't know, and she's sitting next to me and she looks down. She's like, "Oh, I love your boots." And I said, "Oh, I got them at wherever." And she says she throws her little little foot because at the time it was just a heel. You had just amputated half the foot, and this little
Food
boot
stumped.
comes up, and her husband had made this little boot. It looked like a Build-A-Bear boot. She says, "I can't buy those boots. My husband has to make my Build-A-Bear boots." And at first, right, I think everyone goes, if they have this shock, they see this young woman and they feel so bad. But you have this smile and this joy and this sense of humor that's contagious. And you just made it so funny. I'm like, I have to be friends with her. So anyway, that's when I met you, when you had just half of that foot. So we could go, it might have to be another podcast, but on all the whys of how that happened, because it's a tragic story. You did not always have half of a foot. You had a very active life. We're going to get into that. But I think the first question that my audience is going to have is just how long you have been an amputee and when this all started.
Okay. Well, I actually was training for a triathlon in 2003, and I had a lot of pain in the top of my foot, and it was continuous, mostly with running. So I went to a podiatrist, got the standard injections. They didn't work. Basically told me that the bone that's kind of on top of your foot where it would connect was very elongated, simple surgery to shorten it, and it should relieve the pain. So I looked it up, and it definitely looked like a simple surgery. So I did it in a boot for about 6 to 8 weeks. And when I went in and they took the boot off, I fell straight down to the ground and
Mm.
was like, uh-oh. So they put me back in a boot thinking it didn't fully heal with a bone stimulator on it. This went on for about 6 months or so, um, until I noticed he just seemed to be shaking his head. My husband didn't want to come to any more appointments. So at that time, we kind of suspected something was wrong.
Mm.
Um, that's when I left that appointment and went into orthopedic surgeon. Believe it or not, I walked in a God moment because I got seen and looked at
Mm.
me, looked at my foot, and said, "I suspect I know what's wrong. We're going to get an MRI, and we'll talk about it in about a week when you come back to read it. But until then, we're not going to go any further." So I did that. Went back in a week, and he said, "It's what I suspected." He said the bone never fused. Looks
Mm.
like the bone might be dead. So basically, where your foot and your toes connect, it looked like I had a dead bone and it never fused. So it was like a gaping hole in there. And he said, "I won't touch it. I'll send you a specialist, but don't know if there's much they can do about it." So
Mm.
that was probably one of the most drastic moments of this whole thing, thinking,
Right. That's
how could something like this go
incredible.
wrong?
So, when this had occurred, I know that you had a little one at home, Kendall. How
Mhm.
old were you, and how old was Kendall when you start to realize that this is going to get pretty bad?
I was just about 40, and Kendall was under 1 years old at the time.
Okay. Did she understand what was going on?
Oh, she didn't understand much of anything, but I do remember at one point when she was crawling, she kept looking around and we're like, "What are you doing?" She said, "Mom, I'm looking for your toe." Thought, okay, because at that point I'd had a toe removed. So,
Oh, oh my gosh, I remember all of this.
so
So, your baby's little, you're going to have to figure out, this new normal when you go home. Your husband, who I know very well, like a brother to me,
yes, yes.
men tend to want to fix things, and
Hmm.
there's no fixing. And the spouses probably have their own journey to go through. So how did Rich do during this time?
Well, it was, I also had another daughter and she was about 13, I suppose, at the time. Um, And so it was kind of traumatic because he was kind of responsible for both kids at the time because I would have a surgery, then I had to be totally off of it. And it kept going to taking toes off, removing more metatarsal heads, floating the toes, narrowing the foot. It just kept moving forward. And every time we get one step further, I'd go back in and wouldn't heal again. So the frustration was probably the biggest challenge of his. And then the frustration of
Mm.
having a young teenage daughter who, at that point, I mean, kids are a little bit selfish at that point. It's about them.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
it
mhm.
was a little tough. And then the young one wanting to get into everything and do everything and thinking mommy was going to keep getting cut up, and Rich trying to be there for them, working all day, coming home, trying to keep the house up. It was pretty traumatic for him.
Wow.
But as a
Would
strong
you have
husband,
any advice for spouse or family members?
um, I would, if you have time. Some people do have time to make the decisions. I would say make it together. Um, when you do surgeries, that type of thing, if you can, because there's a lot to do with it, a lot of organizing, especially with young children. And I do know that my youngest was really taking it really rough whenever she would be left with anybody or left alone, left without me in the house or something. And we finally got a counselor to the bottom of it. She thought that they were going to keep cutting her mom away until she was all gone. So
Oh.
it was really sad for how she took it.
Oh.
So, like I said, my husband is such a strong man. I couldn't have done it without him. But
Mm.
make sure you have a support team would be my other thing. Support of Anita, particularly, and many of my other friends. I mean, one of them just stopped her life. Carrie stopped her life and literally almost moved in practically and took care of me for a year,
Yeah.
decided that she was going to do that for me. So I was surrounded by just some amazing, godly families, women, men, and my husband was too. And that's what got us through.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the because I know you're an independent woman, you have to be able to accept the help, you know, and
That's probably
right.
the most difficult thing to do because I remember sitting one day when my daughter was doing her fourth grade project. I don't know, probably into number 8 surgery by that time. And she and my husband were just having the most fun building this thing. It was about almost 5 o'clock at night, and I'm finally like, "I'm starving. Somebody needs to feed me." And they're like, "Oh my gosh, we forgot about you." but I didn't even want to ask because I felt so bad. It's like every time you ask, you're like, oh, if I could just reach and get over there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I'm imagining that that whole experience is like a death, right? Would do you think that are the stages the same? You know, with when you grieve from a death, they say the stages are shock, denial, anger, depression, and then acceptance. Would you
Absolutely.
say that's probably in line?
Absolutely. I think definitely a lot of people take it as a death, a loss of someone when they lose a leg. I may not have gone as in depth as that, but I do believe it's because I had so many surgeries up to it. By that time, I was so tired of it. I was like, just take the stupid thing away. But that's not as common as people that do feel like the loss of a limb is like a death because it's a part of your body. So it's like a person or a part of your body, a loved one. It's a
Mm,
piece of you gone.
mm,
So yeah, very emotional.
yeah. And so you have this emotional pain, and then you have the physical pain. And I don't
Mhm.
know if everyone is always in pain. I should say, because I know you won't, Jeanette is in constant pain. And you would never know it because she always has a smile on her face. She has the joy of the Lord. And sometimes, and I will say, I think that because people are so amazed by you, that I worry that you feel like you have to keep that spirit up all the time. Um, right. And not let
Yeah.
people see your bad, not let people see your bad days because they're not always perfect. But is everyone always in pain, or is there, what does it look like
Mm,
for people going home?
it's very different. There's many causes for an amputation. Probably the most common is diabetes that I see now. A lot of vascular, and then probably
Mm,
traumas are the least of what I see and what I talk to people about. But so the pain really depends on if you have longevity, vascular, that type of thing. Um, Circulation loss, or
mm,
if it's just been removed, you do have phantom pain, but that does dissipate as time goes on. Um, for me, I had so many surgeries and went into all kinds of different problems due to them: back, shoulder, crutching, just actually the gait for such a long period of time because it was almost a 10-year span. And
right.
when I decided to lose my leg, I was at that point done. My husband wasn't quite there yet. And I said, that's fine. We'll do it when you're ready. And I got a lot of people saying, what, it's your leg. Why would he say that? You're crazy. But I thought, no, he's my support. And it was
Mm.
not that he was embarrassed, but he thought the same thing as my daughter. When will this cutting stop?
Oh,
And when he
it's a
kind of
big
said,
decision.
yeah. So, especially a
Yeah.
man, they want to fix you, as Anita said before. And it was a Bible study at your house that we were at. And I remember him coming around and just turning his hands up and saying, I've been trying to fix her. I can't do it. God, take it from me. And we
Yeah.
decided as a group, it's time to remove the leg.
Right. And I remember, our bodies were designed to take uh, what's the word? Take the weight from heel to toe, right?
Correct. Correct.
So it's relieving that impact of every step. And so when you don't have your front part of your foot, you are slamming on the heel, then it
Yes.
was jacking up your body, and it's this chain reaction. And then you walk, you're walking funny, then now your neck is in pain. I remember all of that. And I remember the doctor saying, correct me if I'm wrong, did he say, you're going to end up in a chair
Yes. There was a
if you
point where they thought
don't?
I was going to be in a wheelchair. And
Yeah.
I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I did. I was in pretty good shape at the time. So I was hopping around and thought, I'm good enough with this. I could hop on one leg and overdid that. So in my 40s, that was okay. But now that I'm in my
Yeah.
60s, that's not so much okay because I've taken my sacrum and now it's about a sacrum of about a 90-year-old. So
Oh,
that kind of made and that's part of the pain I suffer with now. So
how old were you when they took the leg up, took it from the knee, just under the knee?
that was in 2012. So
Don't make me do math.
that's what I'm doing. I was probably almost 50, not quite, maybe
Yeah.
48, 49.
Yeah. And
So
so what did you do to navigate that pain? What were some of the things that you did?
Just trying to. I remember coming home at a point, and there was music playing really loud in the back. We had somebody in our behind us that would have musicians. My husband's like, "Turn that off," and I'm like, "No, leave it on. I need the distraction. Anything." But so
Mm,
I think it's just keeping distractions around, not allowing it just to get, leave yourself in a room to sit and mope and be mellow. You just have to just try and something else to think about. Really, I
right.
guess is the best you can do at that point. So,
And I think of you often, like when I stub my toe or get a paper clip, a paper cut, I'm like, Anita, do you know what Jeanette has to do every day? So, what would you say? Where do you find your joy? And how do you make sure that you cultivate that in your life every day?
yeah, I think probably my faith definitely brought the most joy, but I think it really put things into perspective for me. I didn't want to show a down personality, a down face to my kids or friends. And then I realized what they were doing for me. I mean, we would open the door, there was food coming in, people coming in, things brought in, taking me wherever I needed. It was just like a circle. And I feel like I didn't even know half the people. So
Yeah.
almost how could I not feel joy when there was such a surrounding of people that just
Oh,
wanted to come help? You in the hospital room, the surrounding, I had a group of people around me before the surgery, and the surgeons and the nurses were standing back while they were praying over me. I mean, I guess it
right.
just made me put things in life into perspective, what's really important and what's not. And so I just learned to
Yeah.
find more joy in life.
Yeah. You just brought back a funny memory when you were, it's not funny, but Jeanette and I have been through a lot together. So we have this kind of like sixth sense of humor to get through life. And so much had happened over the years. Now the decision was made to have the amputation. And so I show up to the hospital and a guy comes with this huge duffel bag to the nurse's station and says, I'm here to see Janette Baranski. And I look in there, I'm like, that's her new leg. I know it. And so they're like, just come this way. And then I zipped right behind him. I'm like, I'm with him. And they're like, oh, just this way. Before pre-op. And you're laying there and you're like, it just we had I could not believe the spirits that you were in. The
The
nurses, the
laughter.
doctors, they were so professional and trying to hold it together, looking at this young woman, knowing that they were gonna amputate. And then they'd go into the hallway and cry. They were weeping for you. And I'm sure eventually I kind of got into your ear. I'm like, I think we probably should knock this off.
It
These
brought a lot of joy
we're
to
all
me
worried
after.
about them. Oh
I
my
think I was told
gosh.
that they talked about that in the operating room after when I was already
So
out, but
funny. And then the doctor comes in and says, so which one's the leg that we're taking? And then you pointed it and then he made a smiley face. And
yeah.
I'm like,
And there we go. My
okay.
husband's just shaking his head, going,
I
"Where would
know.
we be without Anita and her
All
friends?"
right, sure. Oh, I know that was a tough time. You guys are just amazing.
Mm,
Um, so I also want to point out, this joy, this intentional, it's intentional what you do. You could concentrate on the pain and be miserable and depressed, and you choose not to.
right.
And I've have seen cool things happen with you where you're in like the grocery store and you're hauling your flat of water and you're pulling things in your cart and you've got this prosthetic leg. And remember when and it's happened more than once, will
Oh
come
yeah,
up and say, how are you smiling with this? I mean, this has got to be so hard. And you're like, oh, so you were doing it, not even recognizing people were
yeah,
watching.
yeah.
And then they said, my son got into a motorcycle accident. He's going to lose his leg tomorrow. Can you come to the hospital? Did I get that right?
Yes,
And
yes.
so those are the kind of things that I think you've been prepared for in life. You know, so what we have not talked about is where you are currently working. And so Jeanette has worked many places. She's been, the successful corporate woman. She has been a successful real estate agent. I remember times when money was tight and you even worked at cashier at Michael's.
Yeah,
Standing
sure
on your
did.
feet all day in a prosthetic over the holidays. That was not fun for you.
Selling things
Uh,
on eBay and Craigslist and everywhere you could possibly do it to
yeah,
make extra
you are.
money.
You're the hardest working woman I know for sure. But I think this is exactly where you were meant to be. So tell my audience what your current job is and where you work.
It is. It's definitely my heart. And I will preempt it by saying I did do the Stevens Ministry, which is not a counselor, but kind of training, meeting people where they're at and just being able to listen to them, hear them, let them share the light of Jesus with them. It was a 2-year program, but I had a prosthetic company that had me as a patient at one point, and the CEO of the company is an amputee himself, and he decided he wanted that this company, Pongratz, needed to have patient liaisons so that they go to the hospital and to the rehab facilities, and that every person that loses a limb has an opportunity to speak to someone who's been through it. Because there's nothing worse than somebody saying, I know what you're going through, or this is what we need to do, this is what you have to do. And you just want to look at them and say, you haven't lost a leg. Let me tell you what it feels like. So
And you didn't
they
have
called
that,
me.
right? This is kind of
No, I didn't have any of that. Mm-mm.
a new position. Yeah. So
So
keep
it
going.
was, yeah, they called me. They started on a list and I was the first call, if you can believe that. But I've got a last name with the beginning letter B, and there must not have been any A's. And when they called me, the woman said she went right into the CEO and said, I just talked to a woman and it's the first call I made, but you need to talk to her. And when she told the CEO that, he was sitting across from a prosthetician who said, did you say Janette Baranski? And he said, yeah, I know her. She was my patient years ago when she first lost her leg, and you need to have her. So they called me in. I had a 2-hour interview, and I am now a patient liaison for Pongratz Prosthetics and Orthotics. And I go into the hospital sometimes before the amputation, after the amputation, rehab facilities when they're trying to get better, to their homes to help them out. And I kind of do the whole west side of the valley, and I love it. It's my heart.
Amazing. Isn't
So
that amazing? Of all the things that you do, and that to see you put in that position, and it goes back to finding your purpose. I think that's probably a big one, huh, for all the people that you work with, is
absolutely, you
because
have to
they
have a
could lose
purpose.
hope.
And that's what the point is. I will, first of all, the position was a God thing. What would give me the opportunity that somebody would call me out of the clear blue? And I was probably at a low point again because, kind of juggling jobs again and having difficult things go on. And the call comes and I'm thinking, wow, of course I want to do this, and so it
Yeah,
happens. But I go in
amazing.
and walk in the room, and I immediately, almost every woman cries on pretty much. It's not me. It's because they see me walking and they see my toenails painted, and they see me sometimes in a 2-inch heel, with it
And your
showing, and it doesn't.
prosthetic. Yeah.
And it just brings a light
I
to
still
them.
think you should get half off at the nail salon.
Do you know somebody charged me full price and wouldn't give me half off?
I
I
can't
carried my
believe
leg
it.
right out
Come
and said, forget
on.
it. So,
Oh my
no.
gosh.
So yeah,
So,
yeah,
what are, when you come in, they see you, I could see why they would cry. It's like, oh my gosh, there's hope, right?
yeah,
But what are your most commonly asked questions from men and women?
for men and women. Men mostly, they say that when everybody else leaves the room, they generally open up a little bit. They a
Mm,
lot of times will go to tears, and they're worried that they aren't going to be able to provide. How do you get back to being able to do everything? Can I do what I did? Can I drive? I need to provide for my family. That's a big one before anything, and it's almost always. And I tell them, I drive. I've driven with my prosthetic leg, which is my right leg. I've driven with my other leg. I've driven with both legs, and I've driven with hand controls. And you have all the
wow,
options, and you can do pretty much any of them.
right.
So that generally really helps them out a lot. That's their biggest question. And when will I feel like, they don't feel like they're enough anymore for their family?
Mm,
And that's a big one. And I kind of let them know that they need to be able to let go of the emotional and go through your grieving process and allow yourself that. And then at that point, once you get a little bit through that, you have to start moving forward. because you'll be able to get to almost anything you could do before. Almost. You just sometimes have to take a different way around it. So to get to there.
Yeah.
So
They just want to feel normal again.
yeah, and that's it. The women are a little bit different. They don't feel pretty. They don't feel like they were before. They don't feel like they can wear a dress. They look funny. And you know, a lot of everything else, but you know, a woman does want to look attractive and nice. And so that's why it really affects them when I walk in with the dress on. So
Right.
that
Right.
brings a lot of hope.
Aw.
And I think, you know, just the other thing, their questions are, yeah, will I feel like a woman again? Will I feel pretty? Will I be looked at differently? And I will say I get stopped almost everywhere I go. And so I think people, maybe they're just not as used to seeing women. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
it's because it doesn't seem like it bothers me, but it doesn't bother me. I'd love to talk to people about it. But I just tell them you will feel good. And then
That's great.
the stronger you get, the more confident you get. And then pretty soon people don't even look at your leg anymore, whether you can see it or not. So
Right. Right. Amazing. So when you said strength, right away, because I have also been your trainer.
yes,
What's your advice for keeping people mentally and physically strong?
this is a big one. And I do have to say, Anita, through her physical fitness, her training, nutrition, everything, she has kind of been my basic trainer throughout all of this. Because the one thing I tell people, you need to get back to where you were. And you need to get back to how you feel comfortable. You want to feel confident, to have confidence. You want to look nice. You want to feel good. And if you don't have that, you know, in this day and age, and as we get older, diabetes is coming more and more into the picture. And that's probably one of the main reasons I see a lot of loss of limb. So it's so important to do that. And the one thing that Anita has done, and now has a new Thrive 55 program, is you can get any workout, any kind you want. They're all right there in front of you. You can be sitting, you can be standing, you can do upper body, you can do cardio, you can do stretching, and you can choose them. And there were times I was in a wheelchair and I always worked out, whether I was in a wheelchair, whether I was on crutches, whether I could stand up,
Yeah.
whether I had two legs and whether I had one leg. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it. It suits everybody. It's
Aw.
right for this age group,
Thank
or
you,
younger or older.
Janette. Thank
And
you.
yeah, it's kept me at, you know, I still want to lose a few pounds, but it's kept me at least at a maintainable weight where I've been able to, you know,
Aw.
continually do what I need to do. So
You're
I
my
hope
star student. You look
Thank
amazing. And we're just going to keep working out together and getting strong. And you are joy. If I can just put one word over you, that you exude joy. And so I am
well, I
blessed to have
say,
you as my friend. I love you so much.
and I love my friends, and I love this job because there's nothing that brings me more joy than the beauty and the people I've met, and watching them start to thrive when they were at the worst, and when they didn't know, and they didn't want to talk to anybody. And when I walk in, they're like, somebody that's been through it, that understands. I can't talk to somebody who's never done this, you know.
Right.
And it's not me. It's just, I pray every morning, God, give me the words, give me the ears to listen.
Yeah.
Let me just be your voice and bring me where you need me. And I've met some of the most beautiful people out there, and I'm watching them want to do this. Now they're okay. They want to get a leg, and it doesn't matter. I got people in their 80s. I met a woman that has got more faith and more strength and sees, you know, something wonderful in all of this. And she wants to be a vessel for Christ and get a leg and go through with it. And she doesn't care how old she is. So it's wonderful. It doesn't matter. So yeah.
Amazing. I love it. Well, thank you for sharing your story. You are inspiring. And I know that people are going to love to tune into and listen. So
Oh, thank you
I
for
will
having
talk to
me.
you
This
soon.
is
Okay.
wonderful.
Mwah.
Thank
Love
you.
you, dear friend.
Okay. Love you
We'll
too.
talk soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Made to Thrive podcast, a Thrive 55 Plus production. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review, as it really helps support us. If you want to learn more about how you can transform your life and age powerfully with us, please visit mythrive55.com.